This is Pete the Tech Guy, and I'm on Route 13 in Lunenburg, Chase Road. It's a road I'm very familiar with. Down the road that way is the center of Townsend, where one of my advertisers, Evans on the Common, sits, a great place to pick up stuff. And down the road that way, at the beginning of this street, is Jeffrey's Antique Co-op, another one of my advertisers. So I'm up and down this road an awful lot. But where I am right now is in front of the house where so much excitement took place over the last couple of weeks. And I've been really silent on this because I had a feeling how this was going to turn out, but I wanted to see it happen to itself. As you can see, this is a very well-traveled road, a lot of trucks going by. For those of you across the country who don't know this, basically what happened is we have a 8th grade student playing with the football team at Lunenburg High. And supposedly he was getting bullied and teased, as, you know, must be a good kid if he's playing on the team and he's an 8th grader. And I'm sure, I wouldn't be surprised if he was a bit teased. But supposedly the teasing went over the line, and on this house, the parents, the father who's black, the mother who's white, found spray painted on their foundation the words, "Knights don't need niggers," implying that the football team didn't need the young man to play there. Well, as you might guess, there was outrage. And there were candlelight vigils, there were speeches, comments by politicians all over the state. We had editorials from all the proper newspapers decrying how terrible this was. And you actually had the school cancel the rest of the football season. The traditional Thanksgiving game was canceled because, you know, this could not stand. Meanwhile, the FBI was brought in and all kinds of investigations was going on. And at the time, I remember I was sitting at the diner on Morin Square in Pittsburgh, talking to the owner. Great sausage and eggs at the Morin Square Diner, by the way. Best eggs. You won't get eggs prepared better than you will at the Morin Square Diner, frankly. And the subject came up, and Chris, the owner, was saying, you know, that really an 8th or 13-year-old shouldn't be playing with the bigger kids. And that's a very fair point, not only because of size and such, although I think if the kid's good enough to play, he should play. But I expressed some doubts. Now, there was an incident in a game a few weeks back that the league was investigating. So, unlike, like, say, the Bill Spockman business, there were a few reasons to doubt. So the media had its rush on, and even though this isn't very far from where I live, in fact, my aunt lives here in Lunenburg, my 92-year-old aunt, I decided I'm going to wait. I'm going to sit back. And I talked to various people who knew the family, people who knew the team. People were very surprised, and one person expressed something that was very interesting to me. And, in fact, there was another, someone noted something. And I saw this when I looked at one of my, they commented on how neat the graffiti was. In the sense, like, let's say you were sneaking to this house. Now, you can see this is a very well-traveled road. Now, if you're sneaking to a house and spray painting a long sentence on someone's foundation, graffiti people generally aren't neat. And it was very interesting to see that all of the paint was on the foundation, which is easily painted over, frankly, and none of it kind of spilled onto the siding, which would be a little bit of a pain in the neck, a little harder to get off, a little more expensive. And that was raised before, and I went over to one of my advertisers' places, who's had graffiti on his place, and sure enough, it was the same thing. The graffiti was all over the place. You know, the graffiti wasn't neat. Well, 2 days ago, it came out that the football team has been cleared of doing the spray painting. And today, reports are coming out that the mother of the young boy in question has admitted to doing this and they've lawyered up pretty bad. Now, to some people, you might say, you know, hey, this happened. I mean, our friends on the left are, of course, going to say, well, you know, this doesn't mean racism doesn't exist. Racism, of course, exists. This is an unfortunate incident. No one was really hurt. But let's think about who was hurt here. First of all, you had the football team and the football players who were all labeled as racist. Now, mind you, given that you can never underestimate the stupidity of teenagers, it would not have been unheard of that the teenagers had done this. But also remember that we're just coming off the Richie Incognito stuff in Miami. And no matter how illiterate a football team might be about current news, like Obamacare and the like, these guys are all going to have heard about what happened in that Miami locker room and saw what happened to Richie Incognito. So it seemed kind of a big stretch to me in that regard. But all of those people and their families were labeled as racist. And then the town was labeled as racist. Now think about this. This town, I mean, Lunenburg is a town. It's a town meeting place. And we had people online. I remember seeing the comments at the Telegram and Gazette, well, Lunenburg is from the red part of the state, and so naturally we're going to see stuff like this. Now my understanding is this family's lived in this town for a while. And it would seem to me kind of strange that if they've lived in the town for a while, suddenly people are going to start hating them. But even more than that, the town's reputation. Where does the town go to get its reputation back? When will the governor come down to the town and apologize? When will, in fact, what happens to those football games they were forced to forfeit? Will there be a Christmas game instead? Will they invite the Lunenburg football team to perhaps play St. Bernard's on Christmas Day to make up for the Thanksgiving traditional game that nobody was able to play? So you had Lunenburg as a town as a victim. You have the football team as a victim. You have the school system that is a victim but also is a sucker because they jumped all over this out of fear. You have Lunenburg's traditional opponent at Thanksgiving as a victim. But also the victim is the true victims of racism. Because for every one of these incidents, every time something like this happens again, what do you think the first thought of everyone around here is going to be? Just like with Bill Sparkman and the Tea Party. And this is really what this all comes down to. There's a meme. There were people who found it convenient to advance a meme. That's why the FBI was called in. That's why this was on the headlines. That's why there were candlelight vigils. It was a meme that needed to be advanced. And that meme meant good things for the people who were invested in it. And because of that meme, they're going to declare this all not as a big deal. They're going to declare, well, there won't be any big punishment. I wonder if the people who actually did this, what is the cost in dollars for all this? What is the cost for the FBI having to come down here and investigate? What is the cost to the town in dollars? What is the cost in terms of extra police? What is the taxpayer cost? And forget the social costs. Forget the distrust this is now caused. But what is the actual financial cost of all of this? Well, it probably adds up. But you don't see but nobody's going to want to talk about that. It's going to be, oh, well, this was an unfortunate mistake. This was all about trying to get attention. And, you know, I'm sure that everybody meant well. Well, think about it carefully. Now, in order to make a point, in order to create a meme, you had someone who was willing to blacken the football team, to blacken the town, to blacken the reputation of the area, to cost the city and the state thousands of dollars, to rob people of their Thanksgiving tradition. And none of those things entered into it. None of them was more important than advancing that meme. And it says something about this. It says something about the memes of the left and about the individual who did this. Now, what I want to know is, will the media nationally, and will the governor, and will all of the columnists who were so quick to go after Lunenburg, to go after Central Massachusetts, to go after this football team, to go after their Thanksgiving Day, be just as quick to condemn this act, to just as quick demand justice, and to just as quick demand retribution in terms of justice as they were 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now, the young boy in question, he's now at Leominster High. And now he's stigmatized. He's now mocked. He's always going to be the kid that this was about. And that's the worst thing of all. That's the thing that really... This kid's going to be ruined. This kid's going to be ruined. Bottom line. And it's a sad, sad thing when you think about it. But to our friends on the left, just like the people who've lost their insurance from Obamacare, what is 1 or 2 lives when there's a meme to be advanced? It's a pretty sad thing. And it's a horrible thing to have to contemplate. But I will be very curious to see how it plays out. Well, this is Pete the Tech Guy here in Lunenburg. So long.